So what we're brought here together is a fantastic group of folks to really think about what is our era's kind of equivalent big swing? What are the kinds of things we can do to really fundamentally rework this new economy to work better for everybody in the long run, and to actually help us really lead us in that conversation? We've got a fantastic anchor, as we call it, Angela Glover Blackwell.
I often say that the United States of America is a lucky country, that it is always receiving exactly what it needs at exactly the moment that it needs it. And such is the case with the rapidly shifting demographics. By 2043, the majority of people who make up the United States will be people of color: Latino, Asian, Native American, African American, other people of color. So when we think about the shifting demographics intersecting with the crisis that we're having in the economy, if we could figure out how to really do the equity agenda, a fully inclusive agenda, making sure that all can reach their full potential and contribute and prosper, if we could do that, if we get equity right, we'll get everything else right. Equity is really the superior growth model for the future, and I think that's going to be the thing that will both challenge, inspire, and save the country, to be perfectly honest.
You can't have a serious conversation about equity in the economy and ignore the tax question. Any future conversation about this has to deal directly with the fact that benefits being distributed through the tax code are wildly disproportionate and are a massive driver of inequity in the economy, especially for low-income people and people of color.
But another part of the changing demographics that are happening is something that sometimes we call like the silver tsunami. You know, we have like an aging baby boomer population. We have a situation where 1 in 6 Americans in 2030 are going to be over 65. And there's going to be this huge demand for long-term care, and we don't have the workforce to provide that support. And those jobs right now are currently low-wage poverty jobs. And so if these are the jobs of the future, how are we shifting them from poverty jobs to jobs we can be proud of?
I benefited from affirmative action, which in the 1970s took a chance on a kid like me and let me go to the University of California and begin to realize my dreams. Our fundamental shift has to be realizing that our individual success is inextricably linked to these public policies. And I think the biggest challenge here is the baby boomer generation, which, sort of thinks, they hit a home run and didn't realize that they started on third base. They started on third base in terms of the public policies that made it possible. We need to rekindle that sense. People need to step up. Your own success depends on your energies, but it also depends on the structure that's in place for you to be able to succeed.
The countries that succeed are countries that get these two big things, the balance of these two big things right. One is individualism versus collectivism, and you can go too far in either direction. And I think we've too far in the individual direction. We don't really have the ability to think about investing in collective goods for our economy, whether that's infrastructure or education. And the second is really short-term versus long-term. Again, you want to get that balance right. You can't be so long-term that you forget about what you have to do today, but you can't just be about today. And again, I think that's been the problem, a big problem we have.
I think right now we're at a point in our history where there is a fight over whether the government should be involved in creating prosperity. And the history of American prosperity is inextricably linked to this series of social contracts between the government and citizens and markets that has created the biggest, most dynamic economy in the world. I mean, we're still the biggest economy in the world. But instead of arguing whether we should have government involved in this, I think that we should be working together to figure out how to optimize this formula.
And I think that really grappling with and realizing the tremendous opportunity of this moment in history and how we have to sort of step beyond the history that's been made, the history we've inherited, both liberalism and conservatism, and that it's no longer an either or, it's not us versus them.
The United States has really been a beacon for so long, sharing so many things around the globe that others have wanted. Regardless of how I may have felt about it, the world has really latched on to capitalism and democracy and those kinds of cultural things that have come out of this nation. I would like to think, going out and looking back, that the United States stepped up and helped the world to see how to build an inclusive society. The United States really has the potential to demonstrate to the world not only that you can have a truly inclusive democracy, an inclusive economy, but that when you do, it serves everyone well. If we have one more thing to spread across the globe. I hope it is that inclusion works. It works.